Hello people, how's it going? Scotty. So we've had a lot of debate going about the national minimum wage. A lot of people argue for the national minimum wage and it's something that I'm very much against. So what I'm going to do in this video is explain to you about the national minimum wage, why you should be against it, and for the alternative.
I'm no communist, I'll tell you that right now. I believe a man should own his own house and car and cow. I like this private ownership, I want to be left alone. Let the government run its business and let me run my own.
So those of you may remember a video I done on Venezuela, and it was on a price ceiling, and of course in that example the price ceilings is the opposite of a price floor. When we talk about a national minimum wage, the minimum wage is what we call an example of a price floor. It's basically where the government artificially raises the cost and sets a minimum so that the cost cannot go below the minimum. So you may ask the question, what exactly is the problem with a national minimum wage then? As I've given an example in the past, supply and demand is strongly related when it comes to prices, and it's no different to the national minimum wage. When it comes to supply and demand, as I've given an example before about Black Friday, when Black Friday came around, prices fell, consumers' demand went up. When Black Friday ended, prices had gone back up and consumer demand fell. This is strongly related to consumers' behavioural patterns. In other words, when the prices go up, demand falls. When prices go down, demand goes up. This is no different to the national minimum wage. But first of all, what you must first understand is that the wage of the employees is the price to the employers. So workers' wages are a price to the employer. So what do you think happens when you raise the price of lower skilled workers' wages? By raising the national minimum wage, you raise that price and employers' demand falls. This is exactly what happens, and it's why unemployment levels rise. This is because the employer cannot afford to pay that wage. And another way to look at it is this example. Suppose someone came to your door and offered to paint your brick wall for your garden because it's flaky, so they offered to paint your wall for £5 an hour. Now you may employ that person for £5 an hour because you find it reasonable and you don't have time to do it yourself. So the person who offers to do that for you for £5 an hour, you may pay them £5 an hour, as you see that's reasonable. However, what happens when the price is raised? What happens if the person offers you £10 an hour? Okay, you might accept that. What about £20 an hour? Okay, you know, you're starting to think more. What happens if it's £100 or £200? Or what happens if it was £300 an hour? Okay, then you're starting to think to yourself, would it really be worth the cost? Would it really be worth employing that person for £300 an hour just to have your wall painted for £300 an hour? So the employer has to ensure that his value is greater than his costs. If the costs is greater than the value, that person is not going to employ them. In other words, the person that was offering to do for £300 an hour to paint your wall, you're going to decline it. However, in the circumstance if he was going to do it for £5 an hour, you would accept that because your value is greater than what your costs are. This is no exception to a company like McDonald's, where in the United States and certain states they have raised their minimum wage up to $15. Now the reason why this is going to hurt a company like McDonald's is because it's only going to cost $5 or whatever their prices are. It's only going to cost about $5 to produce the burgers. So why would a company like McDonald's pay $15 an hour for, you know, producing the $5 burgers? It's simply not worth it. So at the end of the day, what happens is is that companies start to seek alternatives. So a company will look to compensate in one of two ways. The company may hold on to his remaining workers and refrain from employing any more, and of course compensate by raising his costs of his produce, which of course, what would be the point raising the national minimum wage if at the end of the day you've raised the minimum wage but all you've seen is costs of produce rise, so it's going to cost more expensive anyway. Or of course the company could compensate by paying off his lower skilled workers that he does have currently, and they find themselves unemployed. So the company is going to compensate in those two options that they have, because the company cannot afford to pay that minimum wage. We've seen throughout recorded history for many decades, whenever the national minimum wage has been risen, unemployment has came as a result of that. And what it does is it raises the bar and makes it more difficult for the lower skilled workers to find work, because these employers are refraining from employing them. So there's a solution to the problem. You only have to look at a place such as Puerto Rico to see what mess they ended up in. So the solution to the problem is Hong Kong. Hong Kong was once a tiny small fishing village, and it was one of the poorest places on this earth. Hong Kong thrived and prospered, and it became one of the richest cities in the world. Hong Kong thrived and prospered as a result of the free market. From 1961 to 1997, Hong Kong had closed the wealth gap between the rich and poor, proven by the Gini coefficient. What's most important about Hong Kong is the fact that it managed to do this with no natural resources and no national minimum wage. From the 1950s, Hong Kong had an average household income of less than $5,000. And today, Hong Kong has an average household income of more than $38,000 plus. Today's middle class in Hong Kong is far richer than what the middle class of Great Britain and the United States are. The reason why the wages had increased in Hong Kong was a result of the free market, and this is because of the increased productivity, the strong free trade in Hong Kong, and of course, thanks to the strong free trade and increased productivity, you had more people relying on their currency in trade. So there was an increase in the purchasing power of their currency. It's for this reason that the increased purchasing power of their currency, as well of course the fierce competition in their market economy, had seen wages increase. So you see, the alternative is not to raise the national minimum wage, it's simply to get government off our backs, to open up competition in the economy, to have strong free trade, and of course, most importantly, is to become more of a productive nation. That way, through the free trade and productivity, we can make more countries reliant upon our currency to increase the purchasing power and of course the competition that will increase wages. Anyway people, thank you for watching the video, hope it's been educational for yourself. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section below and I'll be sure to get back to you. Thank you for watching, cheers. So people, you've probably already noticed I've got 4K video, so I got my camcorder through, I've done an unboxing video so you can check that out. Plus the fact if you haven't seen it already, you can check out the video debunking Jason Derulo and child exploitation, and I will be doing more videos on the Industrial Revolution. Plus the fact you can also check out the other video which was in relation to supply and demand debunking Red Scare TV. Don't forget you can also check out my Facebook, Scotty M page, and as well the Albin Gubra page of my Twitter. Plus the fact I do have my Patreon account which you can go and support if you like. So anyway people, hope you've enjoyed the video and I will talk to you later. Cheers.